Hey everyone, I'm glad you joined me to talk about social equity. So what is social equity? Well, let me give you a quick story to give you an example. In 2018, my client Florence Williams purchased her first house. She was a first-time homebuyer. In fact, she was a first-generational homebuyer. She lived with her grandparents, and her family had no history of home ownership. Not because they never wanted to, but because years of government practices prohibited them from pursuing home ownership. Let me explain. I'll give you a quick history lesson. In the wake of the Great Depression, as part of the New Deal policy, the federal government began underwriting and backing home mortgage loans. In 1938, the Federal Housing Administration created an underwriting manual that had guidelines on how these loans would be distributed and who could get them. Ultimately, this institutionalized racism and segregation in the housing industry. The FHA used redlining and deed restrictions to prevent African Americans and other minorities from pursuing homeownership and building wealth. They would use color-coded maps and literally draw a red line around the areas and the neighborhoods that were less desirable or that they weren't going to be lending in. The other neighborhoods were outlined in green. Because of these policies, if you lived in the green neighborhoods, it was super easy to get a loan. But if you lived in the red neighborhoods, no loans were available. The result was that from 1934 to 1968, 98% of home loans went exclusively to white families. And this advantage compounded over time. For families in the green neighborhood, the influx of new wealth and brought new businesses, new retail, and the property values increased. And because the property values increased, homeowners were now able to use their equity to do things like send their kids to college or buy more property and build more wealth, passing this wealth and these advantages down to the next generation. Well, the families in the red neighborhoods had far less opportunities to do that and far less ability to build wealth. Therefore, many remained trapped in poverty. Only a little over 50 years ago, the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968 made these laws and practices illegal. My client, Florence Williams, was able to purchase her home using down payment assistance, which helped her pay her down payment and her closing costs. So you see, that's just what equity is: fairness within processes and systems, and the removal of barriers to participation. Equity recognizes each individual's situation and circumstances different, and it allocates the resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. Through my involvement in neighborhood organizations and with community lenders, I was able to help Florence get over $40,000 in down payment assistance. This allowed her to become a first-time homebuyer and better, a first-generation homeowner. Hi everyone, I'm Julia Lachey Israel. I'm the managing partner of the Signature Group in Minneapolis and Dallas, Texas. I'm also a Social Equity Task Force regional leader for the North Central, New Mexico, and Memphis region. As the past president of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers and a member of a number of different diversity community engagement organizations and committees, I've been able to help agents build social equity in their communities and also build a strong business by implementing diversity and equitable practices directly into your business model. I'd love to share some of those ideas with you today. The first thing I would say that you could do to build social equity in your business and do good in your community is first simply embrace diversity. Embracing diversity is the best thing you can do for your business. Diversity is beautiful. The stats show that the United States and the housing industry are becoming more and more diverse, and that's awesome. In fact, that's great for your business. That provides agents with an opportunity to get more clientele and to grow and expand your business in many different areas. But to take advantage of this, you first have to be willing to accept people's differences and understand cultural differences, and be willing to incorporate those differences into your business. Differences can be incredibly valuable, especially in your team. Having a variety of people who think differently than you do, are from different backgrounds than you are, have different experiences and skills, are great to help you build your team and be able to understand the broader audience. And maybe you don't have a team per se, but your team could be your lender, the home inspectors that you refer, and a number of different people that come together to provide the services to your clients. Having a variety of people in your business is not only good for your individual business, but it's good for people to see that you embrace diversity and you accept it. It can be good to have people who think different than you. They have different perspectives and bring fresh ideas. For a team to thrive, you need people who think differently than you do and who can offer you suggestions and advice to reach a broader audience. So how do you do that? Things that you can do to embrace diversity are just to seek out different people, seek people from different perspectives that look differently than you do. For example, embracing diversity kind of looks like, well, think of it this way. I've never been to India. I've never been to Guyana. I've never been to Mexico. But I have friends who are from all of these places, all over the country and all over the world. And because of them, I learned things about their culture and their belief systems and how they do business. And increasing your knowledge in different cultures and backgrounds helps you to appeal to a much wider client base. Plus, diversity is just good for business. When people see that you're diverse and inclusive, it's looked at very positively and it boosts your reputation. It encourages clients to kind of want to work with you and choose to work with you. Choosing to embrace diversity is better for everyone, and it makes your business stronger, and it helps you to better understand your clients. The second thing that I would offer you to do is to implement a diverse business model and strategy. So in essence, just incorporating social equity directly in your business plan. Here's how you can do that. One, diversify your team. Like I just mentioned, having people from different cultures in different lenders, having people from home inspectors that may reach a broader audience. All of these are great ways to diversify your team. Or maybe you do actually have a team and you are a rainmaker. Having agents on your team that can service their particular market is a great idea. The best way to relate to a diverse audience is to have a diverse team. You can also build a diversity plan, by just making sure that you have consistent policies and procedures. What do I mean by that? Well, equity is about fairness. So making sure that you have a consistent policy and procedure in your business allows you to make sure that you're treating every customer and client the same. Don't allow your unconscious biases or your implicit biases to interfere in your business. Oh yes, we all have them. We all have preconceived notions of people or prejudgments of people based on things we've heard, things we've seen, experiences we've had, even experiences we haven't had. And the only way to make sure that your prejudgment of people or your unconscious bias doesn't interfere in your pocketbook is to make sure that you are consistently implementing the same policies and practices with everyone you encounter. It will also help you make sure you keep your license. Now, I know many of you have seen a video that was done on social equity. They went under, Newsday did a video, an investigation where they went undercover to see if different agents were treating people differently based on their color. The results were unfortunate. Unfortunately, a lot of agents were caught actually discriminating against people based on how they looked. Now, this could have been avoided. An easy way to avoid it would be if they all had consistent practices and policies, so that when someone came to them asking for a service, they weren't treating them differently because they treat everyone the same. So again, it's incredibly important, not just for the good of your business, but also to keep your license to make sure that you have consistent policies and practices. Another way to implement social equity directly into your business plan is through our advertising and our marketing. Now, in our business as real estate professionals, advertising and marketing are critical elements to how we do business. Making sure that you have an advertising and marketing plan that is inclusive is going to be incredibly effective. Ask yourself, am I doing anything that would violate fair housing laws or, worse, reduce my reach? Remember, the goal of advertising and marketing is to gain exposure and to maximize our profits and to maximize the positive outcomes that we have. So when marketing, make sure your marketing is reaching a broader population and you're not just keeping it in a tight knit. So make sure that it's available to a lot of people through a number of mediums. Maybe you use radio or newspapers, or maybe you use social media. Are you using ads that are too confining, or are you actually broadening your audience to make sure that more people are able to see what you have to offer? The basic rule of marketing and advertising is to be inclusive, right? And that goes for your business when you're marketing yourself, or even when you're marketing your listings. The key to success is inclusion, not exclusion. The third thing that I would suggest to build social equity in your business and to do good in your community is to simply get involved in your community. Getting involved in your community can look like a lot of different things. You could get involved in your church or your neighborhood organization or maybe a nonprofit in your area. But getting involved in the community is good for the community, it's good for social equity, and quite frankly, it's good for social capital. Now, while of course you go out into the community to do good, people see you out there and it makes you a leader. It makes you a community service real estate agent that they recognize. What do we always say in real estate? People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Well, how do they know you? They know you because you're around. They've seen you around. They like you because you're around and you've been doing good in the community, and they trust you for that very same reason. So getting out in the community doesn't just do good for the community, it does good for your business. You could get out there and maybe teach others how to build their own equity through home ownership, maybe by speaking at home buyer workshops. You know, for over a decade, I spoke at first-time home buyer workshops in my community. There is nothing more rewarding than teaching people to get the information that they need to build wealth for their own families through homeownership. Because we're able to do that, people see you up there, and of course they're going to call you because you're there to help them buy their house. Now again, we're not there to get business, but it is kind of lead generating, and we are doing good, and we are all about win-win, right? So while you're out there in the community doing good, you're also doing good things for your business. Maybe you could even teach Quantum Leap, or better yet, Quantum Leap for young adults. You could help other people learn how to get their unfair share, regardless of which industry they work in or that they're going to be going into. And best of all, you don't have to go at this alone. There's lots of different organizations in your community that you could potentially partner with. For example, in my area, I was the past president of the Twin Cities National Association of Real Estate Brokers. That's NAREB. NAREB is the oldest Black trade association in the company. The point of NAREB is to promote democracy in housing. We partnered with all kinds of other neighborhood organizations, community organizations, nonprofits, and we provided all kinds of events and trainings and different things that were beneficial to the community. Likewise, there's other organizations just like NAREB, for example, AREA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America. And their goal is to promote sustainable homeownership in the Asian community. There's NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, and they're champions of homeownership for Hispanic people. There's also the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance, and they empower LGBTQ communities on their path to homeownership. There's all kinds of different organizations that you could partner with to do good in the community. You could even join some of these organizations, and you don't have to be a member of the protected class to be in that group. For example, I can belong to AREA, even though I'm not Asian. Anyone can belong. Everybody's welcome. Belonging to these organizations will, one, not only help you better understand how to work with all different types of clientele, but also give you a lot of opportunities to participate in events that they may be doing in your area. Another thing that you can do, and this kind of leads me to our fourth thing to do to implement social equity into your business and to do good, is to join your local association, board, or committee. So, of course, we belong to the National Association of Realtors. Likewise, there's a state association and your local association. Getting involved in the committees and the boards at your association can be a very impactful thing. You have a unique opportunity to bring awareness to a lot of issues that may be important to you and may be important to you in your community. And it's a good thing for you to do. Participating in these types of committees and boards gives you a very valuable voice to address these important issues. Oftentimes associations, especially government affairs committees, play a major role in real estate policy taking place in your area. Your involvement will allow you to be a voice and to vote and support local practices, local policies, equitable policies, and community development projects that may be good for your community. I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors Housing Opportunity Committee. Probably one of my favorite committees that I've been on. I had an opportunity to participate in the Grant Review Committee. And what they do is provide each local association with programs and funding and resources for the association to go out and provide housing opportunities to the community. And again, many of them partnered with organizations like AREA and NAREP and NAREB to do that kind of work. It's a great opportunity for you to get involved in doing that at your local association. And by the way, if you already are involved in a local association, don't forget to join the KW Industry Leaders. There's a group out there just for you. The KW Industry Leaders supports compliance and policy initiatives, and it allows us to promote KW's position as industry thought leaders. We have meetings at different events that happen throughout the year. So if you already are participating in your local committee or a national or a state committee or board, make sure you look for the KW Industry Leaders group. That leads me, of course, to RPAC. Don't forget about RPAC. The Realtor Political Action Committee operates off of voluntary contributions from realtors to help elect candidates who understand and support our interests. RPAC and other political funding types of things are keys to promoting and protecting the real estate industry. There's a saying out there, if real estate is your career, politics is your business. So I highly encourage you to get involved in all of those types of things. One, like I said, simply embrace diversity. It's good for business. Two, make sure that your advertising and marketing is inclusive and is reaching a broader audience. Three, getting involved in your community. Not only does it build social equity, it builds social capital. And lastly, making sure that you are participating in your local, state, and national boards and committees. You see, as a real estate professional, ensuring equal housing is not just profitable for your business, it's actually our civic duty. Whether you're involved in your community teaching homebuyer classes or you're at a boardroom table supporting equitable community development projects, I hope you are tremendously successful from your participation. In fact, I hope your business is wildly successful. So go out there and do well. But above all, go out there and do good.
Very nice. Any questions from anybody out there? Comments, concerns? We got Barb?
No, if you, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay. There we go.
There's more down on the drop down menu there.
Perfect. All right. So does anybody have any questions? Comments? How many of you are currently working to expand?
If you go to the larger grid there, they'll show you, there you go.
You're a quiet group.
They're all muted.
They're all muted. It's all good. Okay. All right. So prior to meeting today, there was a community agreement discussed detailing the rules of conduct and engagement for this conversation. And as your facilitator, me, reviews the community agreement, note any ahas and things that you might still need to add. So we'll look at those real quickly. Part one is about joining the conversation. Social inequity is a complex, well-researched and highly discussed topic within a variety of disciplines. While you don't need to have an academic's understanding of the issues to make a positive impact, it will strengthen conversations to have a shared language and a base of knowledge. Diversity. Diversity is the inclusion and involvement of people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds, racial identity, genders, ages, sexual orientations, and disabilities. I think Pam Simon, one of our agents here at KWL, they had posted it underneath the invitation to participate in the national DEI workshop, which was held yesterday. And that photo showed a picture of what equity really means. There were three people standing at a fence trying to watch a baseball game. A tall person, a medium person, and a small person. The tall person could see right over top of the fence, and the middle person, the medium-sized person, could see through a small hole in the fence. The small person couldn't see anything at all. So in order to balance it out, there were steps that were created for the smaller person and the medium person to put them over the top of the fence to be able to see. And that's kind of what equity is. I know that's sort of a cursory explanation, but it's giving everybody the same opportunity to view things through the same eyes. Inclusion is an ongoing commitment to provide equal access to opportunities and resources by practicing fairness and respect for all individuals. Equality and equal allocation of resources and opportunities to individuals and groups, not taking into account the differentiated needs, experiences, and circumstances of that individual or group. Julia talked about redlining and its origins, and in today's real estate world, although we're not living redlining as it was, there are still forms of redlining going on every day. So we need to be conscious of those and be aware of them. Some of the banks, in fact, are offering loans in designated areas of lower income, which to me is just another form of redlining. So be mindful. I think I might have shared this the last time I was here. I had a client who we were ready to go. We had our offer accepted, and then come to find out the loan was only for people living in a specific, there was an area, a region that was blocked off in Lorraine County. And if a house was outside of that area, they wouldn't provide the loan. It had to be in a low income tract of housing. So I have issue with that. But so steering is the unlawful sorting of home buyers based on race or ethnicity. Implicit bias, we heard Julia talk about that. It's an unconscious knowledge of the assumptions, attitudes, and stereotypes that we hold towards a person or a group. Explicit bias is a conscious knowledge of the assumptions, attitudes, and stereotypes that we hold towards a person or group. Microaggression, interactions or behaviors that intentionally or unintentionally communicate a bias towards a historically marginalized individual and or group. Systemic racism, systems that are embedded with biased laws and policies that help to promote, maintain, and support racial inequities, inequalities in favor of a majority group. BIPOC, BIPOC is an acronym for individuals who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Deed restrictions. It's language that explains the way a property can or cannot be used. In theory, it's supposed to make a property more valuable and marketable, but historically, it's barred marginalized people from homeownership. I mean, there were deeds, and there may still be some of those in existence in parts of the country that we're not aware of. It might say that the owner of this property, the purchaser of this property, can hold this property as long as, but it cannot be sold to a person of color. How ridiculous is that? Down payment assistance, or also referred to as DPA, those are programs to help home buyers with grants or low interest loans that reduce the amount of the home buyer would need to save for down payment. These programs vary by location. There are a number of those available in the state of Ohio. So if you're not familiar with them, the biggest one I think is OFA, which is OHFA, Ohio Finance Agency. They will contribute 2.5% down payment, and it's a grant, so it goes away after five or 7 years. I think the numbers might have changed, but it stays on the books as a second mortgage until that designated period of time is over. Then it literally goes away. So what happens is, let's say, for example, you have a home buyer who uses the down payment assistance program through OFA. If they decide to sell it before that timeline ends, so they're selling it in 3 years instead of 5 or 7 years, whichever the time is, they have to pay back the prorated amount from that time period. However, if they keep the property longer than the designated period of time, then they don't ever have to pay it back. It's a grant that goes away. So it sits there as a silent second until they sell the property. There are other down payment assistance programs too. For example, on the east side, if you're an employee with Cleveland Clinic has its own down payment assistance program. University Circle has a down payment program. Cuyahoga County has a down payment assistance program. There are limited funds that are available in all of those programs, so you have to check early to make sure that there's funds available. And when you're writing a contract, you're actually writing a contract that is stating that your client is using public funds, because sometimes it can delay the closing. So if you're ever doing, say, for example, a Fannie Mae repossession property, you have to designate on the contract that the people are using down payment assistance programs. Accessibility is the practice of accommodation services and products for the needs of individuals and groups to give equitable access. Fair Housing Act, we all know what that is, passed in 1968. The Fair Housing Act made it illegal to discriminate concerning the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, and sex. The law was expanded to prohibit discrimination based on disability or family status in 1988. And then there's the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, civil rights law passed in 1990. Seems like not very long ago. that prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in all areas of public life, including jobs, schools, transportation, and all public and private places that are open to the general public. So we did the whole thing with Julia. And again, I want to ask if there were any ahas, anything that you weren't aware of, that you didn't know, that you want to share now, or want to ask questions about. Anybody have any ahas from anything that we've discussed so far? Don't make me pick you. Isaac, hi. What's up, Isaac? Do you have any questions?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, thanks for chiming in. I appreciate it. All right. So, so in her conversation, Julia stated that the stats show that the United States and the housing industry are becoming more and more diverse. We can dive deeper into that statement by looking at the data on the following pages. So these are figures that you can take some time to look at and how it's changing. You can see that in 1990, there was only 10% of Hispanic purchases in the US, approximately 12% or a little bit less for our Black community, and the majority being white. So if you look now at 2020, you can see how it's opened up, and more of our Hispanic community is purchasing homes and becoming homeowners. Black community is still not to the extent where it needs to be. It's still in that more like 10 to 12%, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, if the ratio of our Black population doesn't meet the ratio of Black home ownership, something's askew. The projection is that by 1940, our Hispanic community will be much larger with regard to home ownership. But again, our Black communities are faltering with being able to get the financing to purchase homes. You can see the differentiation between renters and owners. Again, it's the renters are staying at that lower level of the spectrum. That's crazy. Any questions on this? It's not really much that I can say about it other than I can see what the picture is. This is total owners and renters by race or ethnicity from 1990 to 2040 projections. It looks like in the next 10 years, there might be a greater balance. And this is all based upon our country becoming more diverse and people who are helping the process to become more diverse in what we do. Again, total owners and renters by race or ethnicity from 1990. This is Asian and other households by the millions.
Because for so many of those minority groups, it's been generations of their family never owning a home. And so by educating people on what it looks like as a first-time home buyer, that it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be something that's not for them. And it's cheaper than rent many times. So in the long run, it just builds generational wealth and it increases your confidence. I mean, there's so many intangible factors of home ownership that if you educate yourself on everything that you can on how to be the most helpful for those first-time home buyers that don't have anybody that's modeled it for them in their families, you are that resource for them that can change the trajectory of their entire life.
Exactly. So what do you see in the trends and forecasts for the population and home ownership? Anybody? Somebody? You see that things are changing, and again, it has to do, I think, with our minds becoming more open about diversity, not only legal reasons, because now it's the law, it's because it's the right thing to do. The socioeconomic, education, income, and occupation factors might be shaping the experiences. That's a good reason? That's a question from our program here. What is changing? in the United States that might influence these communities and forecasts projected. Do you think that what we see on television and in films and things like that, hold on a second. You know, it's wonderful to have a touchscreen, but it's terrible to have a touchscreen. Anyway, does anybody think that by watching media, how media has changed, music, films, televisions, what's streaming into our homes, that's changing how we perceive one another? Does anybody see any kind of a benefit to that or any kind of a relationship to that?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you're on Zoom.
That's okay. Guys are making me think that you're all fighting. You're just there. You're not really there. Anyways. All right. So I don't know what the time is. I'm gonna watch the clock.
It's 11:36.
Through 6. Okay. So part 2, leveraging the opportunities. Keep in mind these 4 ways to proactively build equity to do good in your business, communities, and industries while you work together to discuss the following questions: embracing diversity, implementing an inclusive and diverse business model and strategy with consistent policies and practices, getting involved in your community, joining your local association, board, or committee. So considering the population and home ownership trends and forecasts in the US that we talked about, what opportunities does this provide for you and your business? Now, I really want to hear from you guys on this. I want you to think about it. How is this going to benefit your business? There's a couple of different ways for sure. Anybody? Allison, how would can you tell?
Considering the population and homeownership trends and forecasts in the US, what opportunities does this provide for you in your business? You can be so much more proactive and knowing that the homeownership trends are going toward the Black communities and that's opening up and becoming much more diverse. I've had a lot of conversations with, he's a broker and he is heavily involved in the Black community in Toledo. And he says, well, the average sales price out there is a lot less than it is here. But even then, if it's a sales price of $100,000, that can feel unattainable. And it's his one thing in life. His goal is to make this affordable and achievable for them. So it starts with sometimes credit repair. And so if you can be, again, that resource for helping people who might have the worst credit score possible and say, let's look at this as a long-term plan and build a plan for you for over the next year to get you to that point where we can fix your credit or we'll work with you or connect you with someone who can help you do that. If you are that resource, they're going to tell their friends that this is the go-to person who invested their time in me and is helping me through this process, because your job is to help them hit the "that was easy" button. You want to remove the barriers for people that don't even know where to start. And when they hear some of the work that goes into preparing to buy a home, that you're going to be there every step of that journey for them. So it's a huge opportunity for you to get into those communities and be that person's resource.
So I'm hoping that most of you who are here today are here for the long haul and you're not looking for quick and easy real estate money, because it's a long haul drive. And so when you create those relationships early on in your business, you're going to have those relationships over a long. I've been in business for 30 years. I don't know how many houses we've sold. I can't really do the calculations, probably about 1,500 over a 30-year period of time. I don't know what the exact number is, but either way, that's my database. Those are people who call me still 10 years down the road later, 20 years down the road later. Hey, you sold my mom a house, you sold my dad a house. And so when you start building those relationships and helping people, number one, get their credit, we've had people, what we call an incubator system, for 3-4 years before they're finally ready. And those people, while they're waiting to get their credit in order, are still referring other people saying, hey, I've got this great agent who's taking time with me. Maybe they'll take the same time with you, call them. So when we have our business that is 85 to 90% referral based, that's why, because we took the time, and you can take that time too, and you need to take that time.
And just one other thing I'll add, I remember going to an event where they had a panel of speakers that all were Hispanic women, and they talked about some of the differences between the white pool of buyers versus Black and Hispanic buyers. And many times you'll see the white population buying 2, 3, 4, 5 different homes over their lifetimes, where the Black and Hispanic communities, they might be buying one house ever for the rest of their lives. Like, they're buying the house that they're gonna be in and, you know, give to their children or their family member many times. And so you're not gonna get the repeat business from that person necessarily. So you have to spread your net a lot wider, because they'll give you referrals of other people in their circles. It's just, if you're operating on a repeat and referral business relationship with other people, you have to go a lot wider. And she was saying for her, she works really, really hard for not getting the repeat business that you would get with another demographic, and that's reality. So know that going in, you have to cast that net far and wide. But imagine how much different that person's life is. Even if they're staying in the house forever, you changed their life because you spent that time with them. You're changed. That's the part where people say, I'm in real estate to help people. I can't think of a higher purpose when you're helping someone change their life by home ownership. In that, I mean, there are other things obviously in life, but home ownership is pretty big.
And so I don't know if I'm jumping out of what we're talking about, but one of the things that Julia said that is really, really important, I think, is if you haven't already thought about how you can put together home buyer seminars. I mean, I know KW is going to be doing some here, and that you can bring your clients to, or your potential clients to, and allow them to find out more about what the process is and what it takes. So that's a door that should be opened. You know, if you're not creating your own home buyer seminars, get ready, because we're going to be doing them here and teaching people what the steps are to home ownership. And that's an invite. And you know, you can invite them to come here. They'll be safe. Nobody's going to take your clients from you. They'll learn, and you'll have an opportunity to continue to build your downline of people and make it a wide group of people, not just your cousin Joe and his family or whatever. But at any rate, identities are intersectional, meaning that a person can be Black, well-educated, and have a physical disability, to be a first-generation immigrant from a non-English speaking country, and be wealthy, come from a low-income background, and be a wildly successful real estate agent. So how do you plan to accommodate and advocate for clients with diverse and intersectional backgrounds? Anybody?
So this is Antoine. So I wanted to kind of take a step back and piggyback on what Allison was saying, and a lot of what the data that you're sharing with us now is also saying. So I've been an agent for less than a year now, and I know for like the Black community, where I have a lot of contacts and leads in, one of the struggles for a lot of my leads last year has been their credit, right? So I would like to think that there was at least 10 possible deals that didn't happen because of credit related reasons. And at the time, I was putting these people in contact with, credit companies and leading them down that path to build that credit up, to build that rapport with them, so that, I'm walking them along those steps of, hey, let's get you to becoming a homeowner. Maybe not today, but a year or two from now, we can have that discussion. But along the way, checking in on them, following up with them, seeing how everything's going, making sure they're still engaged, doing what they're supposed to. So that's been one of kind of like the coals in a fire for me, is just making sure that for those who aren't able to qualify today, helping them along the way, and maybe they'll qualify tomorrow, So for me, like, I'm legit working on homeowners program that I want to provide to those who are struggling with things that would prevent them from becoming homeowners, and mainly credit related issues. So with speaking to this topic today, and me talking to someone yesterday about it all this week, actually, it's just kind of like just that light bulb that, hey, I'm on the right track, and continue with it. And then in addition to that, hearing that Elevate has homeownership seminars and have had them, I'm also interested in being a part of that. And if there's any information or resources out there that's already, recorded, or documents or collateral that's available to share, I'm interested in that information as well.
Very cool.
Thanks for that insight, Antoine. I appreciate that. That goes, I have two takeaways from what you just said. First of all, when I hear people say, oh, I'm working with this person, it's a bad lead though, they're not gonna buy a house for not 2 years. There's no such thing as a bad lead. A lead is a person that is on the buying cycle. A good lead in your mind might be someone that's right up here ready to buy in the next 30 to 60 days or right now. And then the next day after they've purchased that home, they might be a bad lead because they're not going to buy it for 7 to 9 years. Your job is to be continually touching people throughout that buying cycle. So you're there when they're ready. That's your job, to stay top of mind. So I love that you have that working in the background as you're working with clients of today that are ready to purchase now. And so we had a meeting with Cross Country Mortgage a couple weeks ago in regards to how they can add more value to the market center in a tangible way for people to see them in a different way. And so we're going to host, and we don't have the date yet. So to answer your question, it'll probably be sometime in Q1 here to have them host this Elevate sponsored first-time homebuyer seminar where, kind of like an open house, everybody can bring their clients and either go with them or just send them. We're not there to steal other people's clients, and go through the whole process. So you could be there and you could brand the information to yourself to say, hey, come and do my homebuyer class. With Cross Country, there will be other agents there. It will be offsite. We're not going to do it at our market center. It's too small. It's a new opportunity though for Cross Country to have business. And if you're not working with another lender right now, they are proven and vetted. So you can have a great experience with them, as will your clients.
And so Antoine, I want to add in to the rest of you as well. So if you're not currently using Command for creating your database, start putting those people that you're working with that are now clients and future clients into the database, because you can set up touches that are automated and you can just follow through on a regular basis. And then of course you want to make personal touches as well. But if you start to automate that database of yours, and again, this is backing up on what we talked about the last time, you're going to be able to reach those people and stay connected with them while you're out doing something else. So if you haven't already started with Command, and you need help with that, there are resources here that can help you with Command. There's the KWU, you can look on there for it, or schedule with Lynn or Mike, and they will help you get yourself set up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't watch the clock because I know
We've got 10 minutes.
Okay. So we've kind of already talked about how we could educate the community about homeownership. So we're going to skip over that. And we've already talked about some ahas. So looking ahead, in the time that we have left, we're going to talk about a couple of things. So we want to hold ourselves accountable to meeting your goals for more equitable business. When we leave this group today, what's the first thing you're going to do? Think about it. What are you going to do to help to become a more diverse agent and welcome more diversity into your business? Think about that. What's the time frame for making my business more inclusive, equitable, and diverse? Do you have a plan for 6 months, now, a year? What is the plan? Write it down. Before I got into real estate, even during the time I was in real estate, I sold radio advertising. And my manager, the one thing he said that was an always for me was, write your plan and work your plan. If you don't have a plan, you got nowhere to go. So you have to create that time frame, that plan of how you're going to effectuate what it is that you want to do, and then follow the plan. How can I hold my market center accountable? The best way, I think, to hold our market center accountable is by inviting more people into the market center who have the ability, the interest, and the desire to work in the real estate field. We not only need to diversify our clientele, we need to diversify our colleagues. That's a big thing there. And what is that going to do for you? If you diversify your colleagues, if you bring more people into the market center that are more diverse than what it looks like right now, you're building your downline.
Exactly.
So What does that mean to you? That means greater profit share. That means an opportunity for you to build your business passively. While you're out there working and selling, you're passively creating more income for yourself because you've got a downline that's bringing it up for you. How do we hold each other accountable? Wow, that's tricky. Anybody? How do we hold each other accountable to this?
I think accountability can have an association with like a judgmental side to it.
Yeah.
Accountability is really just about asking questions, and if you said you wanted to do a thing and you wrote it out in your plan, accountability is just asking like, how are you doing in relationship to that thing you said you wanted to do 2 months ago, or last month, or in 2 weeks from now? What, you know, and then if you are holding each other accountable, offering any help, if somebody's struggling or stuck on a certain piece that they don't really know how to get past, you're there to offer a helping hand. I mean, that's how we do things here specifically. And I think that having regular conversation, just this topic in general, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it can be confusing, it can be scary because people don't really know what it means. And people, as a first response, can say, well, I don't have prejudices against people. Everybody does, whether you realize it or not. And so there's no judgment around that. It's just an awareness of how we can help each other grow, because to hold each other accountable for this topic in particular takes a lot of intentionality, and we're all growing together. None of us have arrived. So I applaud you for being here today, because it shows that you're serious about this and that you want to learn more. And this is just scratching the surface on this topic. So when you talk about Elevate specifically, and I look at our roster, it's very white. Like we only have, I would say maybe 10 to 15% is non-white. And so we want people to know that if you are of another ethnicity or in any other area outside of real estate, you might not think that you're welcome here. You are, and we want you to be welcome here. And so just spreading that word helps bring our market center up a notch in everybody else's eyes in the community. So the fact that we're talking about this, I think, shows that we're serious about it.
Celebrating our wins is easy. It's just we become that of which we are intended to be. So that's celebration in itself. And highly successful people are clear about their role in the events of their life. They know this is the only way to uncover new solutions, apply them, and experience a different reality. So take the responsibility and run with it. That's a quote from The One Thing. And if you haven't read, that's page 187. If you haven't read that book yet, read it.
Read it.
Focusing on the one thing in your life is probably the best thing that you can do to build your business. We don't have to be all things to everything. Focus on one thing, make it more narrow, and then you'll find that things will automatically flow in. How are we doing on time? Are we right at
We got a couple minutes left. Can you scroll back up to the questions on this page?
Here we go.
So to the one thing, the overarching question is in that book is, what is the one thing that I can do such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary? And you could go to a class or any training and have a huge page of notes, like I'm gonna do 20 things because these are great and I really want to change in these areas. You're not going to do all 20 things at a high level, and you're going to peter out after the emotions have died away. So if you look for one thing that you can do, and Antoine, if you're looking for an accountability partner and somebody else is in the room, type that you're interested in the chat. Hold each other accountable to that one thing, and it can be something small. So if you're not sure what that is, an example would be, let's say you want to start a workout and you want to lose weight, you want to lose 30 pounds or whatever. Your one thing might be putting on your shoes and tying the laces. That could be your one thing that you do, because you know at that point, your mind is in it. You're going to go to the gym or go for a run or a walk or whatever it is. But you're not going to do it until you have your shoes on. So by putting on your shoes, you're committed. That could be the one thing. So if you did that and it's 66 days, they say if you do the same thing every day for 66 days, it becomes a habit. So if you do it every day for 66 days, it becomes a new habit. So in this case, what is one thing that you could do in regards to this conversation? I can think of one thing is to pick a city and just get educated. If you need to learn about specific areas in the areas you want to serve in real estate, know what the demographics are, like get to know the people that live in those cities to see how you, like, where the gaps are. You're coming in as a problem solver to fill a gap that is there that no one else has come to fill. That's the first thing I think of, educate yourself.
Always.
What are some other things, if you had to pick one thing to do from what we talked about today? No wrong answers, like this is just anything that's coming to mind.
And we're not, I mean, we're not being judgy either, so.
Right.
Whatever it is that you think you can do to open the door for more diversity in your business, what do you think that could be? What could you do?
What do you think, Corinne? What was something that you would
Well,
suggest?
Personally, what I would do, and I've already started this, is I am connecting with some of the smaller local churches, both in the Hispanic community and in the Black community, and offering programs for wealth building and talking to them about how to create and get ready to purchase homes. So that's already something that me and my team has done and are doing. So that's my one thing right now.
I love that. Yeah, because it's getting ready to purchase the home and then you're owning it. It's kind of like when you get married, people get excited because you're preparing for the wedding ceremony. If you don't prepare for the marriage part, like the commitment part,
Right.
that's not always fun, right? So the commitment of preparing to buy the house and then what it looks like afterwards, like, yeah, you're gonna have, sometimes your furnace is gonna go out, or you have hail damage on your roof, like these are real life things to prepare for.
You're
I
not
love
calling
that.
the landlord.
Right, right.
Oh, somebody you have to pay. So, and then the other piece to that, by the way, is when somebody purchases, and I've done this with my personal church as well, when people from the congregation of my church purchase a home through us, we do a donation from our commission back to the church. So, and we do it in that client's name.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's not much, 5%, 10%, whatever you want to give. It's a way for the church to feel more involved in what you're doing as well, and to open the door for that opportunity.
I love that. It's very tangible. Any other questions? I know we're right at time, or 11:58. Any other questions or comments? Did you learn something new today in the content that was discussed?
You can just raise your hand if you did.
Raise your hand. We'll never see it, but thank you.
Right.
There we go. Oh, Isaac, hey.
All right. Well.
Thanks, Forrest.
Thanks so much for being here today. We appreciate it. Hope that you have learned something. I've been in business for 30 years. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. If any of you have any questions, you want to talk about my business and how it might relate to what you're doing, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at movewithroselle@gmail.com, and I'll type that in the thing here.
And Antoine, I would put your question in the Market Center Facebook group because you'll get a wider audience there that someone else may be looking for an accountability partner. If I hear of anyone as well, I will send them your way.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.